Until you value your semen, no one will value. There is a silent wealth that many carry, but few know how to preserve. This wealth is not in the pocket, nor in the safe, but in the body itself, more precisely in the vital energy that sustains every lucid thought, every firm decision, every act of creation. Semen here is a symbol of this force, not just a physical substance, but a metaphor for everything that, once wasted, cannot be recovered. It is the liquid gold of existence. Seneca reminds us everything that is rare is more precious. And yet, how many times do we treat this gold like common water, letting it run away without noticing? The waste is not just in the physical act, but in the accumulation of habits that drain our clarity, that weaken the spirit and make us hostages to short, empty pleasures. It's like someone who is always tired and doesn't understand that it's not a lack of time that exhausts them, but the way they give of themselves without discretion. Epictetus would say that whoever does not govern their own impulses is condemned to be governed by any external stimulus. It's not about moralism, it's about sovereignty. It's about realizing that every impulse given into without consciousness is not just momentary pleasure, but a piece of strength that we let escape. And when that strength is gone, the world notices it in the way we walk, talk, decide, and look. Think of the image, a craftsman who day after day works on a rare piece, lets it fall to the ground before finishing. What could be a masterpiece turns into a fragment. This is what happens with vital energy when it is not preserved. To guard it is an act of self-respect. To direct it is to transform the raw into the beautiful, instinct into presence, urgency into purpose. Because before the world recognizes your value, you need to demonstrate to yourself that you know exactly what you are worth. There are losses that make no noise, but they empty us little by little. Certain habits, seemingly harmless, act like small cracks through which our vitality drains. A repeated vice in silence, a constant distraction, a pleasure that is sought to avoid feeling the emptiness. All of this adds up. It's like carrying a leaky bucket. No matter how much you fill it, it never stays full. Immediate pleasure often presents itself as an ally, but deep down, it is a merciless creditor. It lends us seconds of euphoria, but it charges hours, days, sometimes years of focus and energy. Seneca said that he who lives by giving in to impulses is eternally in debt to himself, and this debt is not paid with more pleasures, but with discipline and consciousness. Imagine a warrior who, before battle, lets his weapons fall to the ground without noticing. When the decisive moment arrives, he has nothing to defend himself with. The same thing happens when we repeatedly give in to what drains our vital energy. The moment to act arrives, we are out of strength. The body is present, but the spirit is exhausted. This drainage is not just physical. It affects mental clarity, firmness in decisions, and the intensity of presence. It affects the way we look into people's eyes, how we keep our word, how we endure silence. To guard one's own energy is not to refuse pleasure, but to choose pleasures that do not cost too much, because when you learn to conserve what strengthens you, each act, each word, and each step carries a different weight. The weight of what is rare, preserved, and therefore precious. Epictetus taught that true greatness begins in what no one sees. The man who masters his desires does not need to flaunt his strength. It is perceived in his firm gaze, his sure step, his voice that does not tremble. Self-control is not a prison, it is freedom. It's like holding the reins of a wild horse, not to prevent movement, but to choose the direction. The respect of others is a reflection of the respect we cultivate for ourselves. And this respect is born in private moment, in decisions that no one witnessed. It is when we say no to what weakens us, even if no one would know. It is when we keep a commitment to ourselves, even without applause or reward. He who disciplines himself when he is alone builds a kind of silent authority that imposes itself effort. Think of the tree that grows away from prying eye, rooting deeply before appearing on the surface. When it finally emerges, it is already firm, resistant to storm. Such is the personal magnetism generated by self-control, invisible in its construction, unshakable in its result. Life constantly tests us. If we give in to every impulse, we become toys of circumstance. But when we learn to sustain a desire without bending to it, we transform that energy into presence, into strength, into clarity. The world recognizes him who recognizes himself, and nothing is more attractive than someone who doesn't need to beg for respect to be respected. Silence is a fertile territory for those who want to preserve energy. It is not about omission, but about creating a shelter where vital force does not dissipate into premature words or display. Seneca warned of the danger of living for the gaze of others, reminding us that real value is proven in consistency, not an announcement. To keep to oneself is not to hide. It is to mature. It is to allow something to strengthen before facing the weight of exposure. When we let every achievement, every thought, every impulse spread without a filter, we lose density. Energy is fragmented. It's like a river that, instead of following its course, seeps into the ground and disappears before reaching the sea. Physical, mental, and sexual dispersion robs us of the power to create something that lasts. An excess of stimuli keeps us busy, but rarely productive. Silent discipline is like dammed water, concentrated, patient, but capable of moving stones when directed. It is the invisible force that builds solid pillars. Life does not demand noise to be transformed. It demands focus, and focus is impossible when we are always reacting to the world instead of shaping it from within. Guarding one's own energy is an act of sovereignty. It means choosing when to act, when to speak, and when to simply be. It is understanding that every word spoken and every act performed carries a part of it, and that if we spend without consciousness, there will be no strength left for the moments that truly matter. Retaining and redirecting energy is not just an exercise in containment, but in conscious creation. Epictetus would remind us that it is not enough to move away from what weakens us. We must give ourselves to what strengthens us. This vital energy, when well guarded, becomes the raw material for building discipline, clarity, and purpose. It's like fire that, if dispersed into spark, quickly goes out, but if concentrated, it warms, illuminates, and transforms. A first step is inner vigilance, to observe without censorship but with firmness what triggers us to waste, what should be invested in what really matters. Recording these moments is like mapping a territory before defending it. You can only protect well what you know deeply. Then comes the substitution. Every restrained impulse opens up space for a constructive gesture. Instead of giving in to the automatic habit, channel it into physical training, a creative project, a deep study. Thus, strength is not just preserved, but multiplied. Finally, the cleansing of stimuli. The body and mind were not made to live in constant sensory overload. Reducing excess is allowing energy to regenerate, for silence to fuel focus, and for every choice to be an affirmation of self-worth. In every retention, there is no loss, there is strengthening. It is the silent act that prepares for visible victory. Seneca said that the value of things is not in the noise they make, but in the substance they carry. Guarding one's own vital energy follows the same principle. It is not repression, it is cultivation. By preserving what is rare, we give ourselves the privilege of choosing where to invest what is most precious to us, because once it is spent, it does not return. Marcus Aurelius would reinforce that the greatest victory is always against oneself. To master impulse is not to suffocate life, but to direct it so that it flourishes with more strength and duration. Dignity is born from this intimate victory of knowing that what you possess is guarded with respect and given only to what is worthy of receiving it. Life thus comes like a flame protected from the wind. It does not go out easily, it does not scatter small sparks, but it stays lit, illuminating the path, warming those who approach. He who guards his own light teaches without needing to say that he understands his own value, and the world inevitably learns to treat him the same way. The invisible waste that empties us. There are habits we don't notice, but that slowly bleed our strength. Small concessions that seem harmless, but that over the days drain clarity, focus, and even physical vitality. It's as if every instant of immediate pleasure steals something from our tomorrow, and yet we repeat the gesture like someone who returns to the same well even though they know the water is already murky. Seneca warned, "He who surrenders to his impulses lives eternally in debt to himself." This debt is not paid with excuses or with promises of change, but with the awareness that every act of unconscious surrender leaves us weaker to face the battles that really matter. The problem is not in the desire itself, but in the lack of direction that accompanies it. Imagine a dam with small crack. The water is still there, but its strength is lost in constant leak. This is how we are when we give in to every stimulus, every call, every distraction. Our energy infiltrates places that do not bear fruit, and when we need it, it is no no longer available. The most dangerous waste is not what is seen, what happens in silence within. Every day, self-control as a source of personal magnetism. Epictetus said that a man who masters his desires radiates something that cannot be bought. Present. It is not just the control over visible act, but the silent discipline that is maintained in the moments when no one is watching. It is there that self-respect is born, and it is from there that the respect of others is nurtured. True magnetism does not come from expensive clothes, rehearsed speeches, or public displays of confidence. It stems from the intimate knowledge that you are capable of resisting yourself. This resistance shapes your posture, sharpens your gaze, and strengthens your voice, even when few words are spoken. It is a breaking of expectation. Many believe they will be valued for what they show, but in reality, the root of admiration is in what they manage to keep. Private decisions, such as choosing where to invest energy, with whom to share intimacy, which battles to engage in, long-term, draw the public figure that the world sees. Self-control is not a prison. It is the invisible architecture of personal power. The silence as a guardian of energy. What is built in silence has deeper root. There is a peculiar strength in not exposing your achievements before they are solid, in protecting internal processes from the curious or critical gaze of the world. Just as the seed needs the darkness of the earth to germinate, our victories need time and seclusion before they can blossom. The excess of dispersion, whether physical, mental, or sexual, is like opening several faucets at the same time. The pressure drops, the strength is lost, and what could move mountains can barely fill a glass. Energy, when concentrated, transforms. When scattered, it evaporates. Imagine the water of a river. When it seeps into 1,000 cracks, it disappears without a trace. But when channeled, it is capable of moving stones and carving entire valleys. Silence is that channel. It prevents strength from being dispersed into explanations, justification, and exhibition, preserving it for what really matters. It is not omission, it is strategy. It is not weakness, it is maturity.